Well, good morning, everyone. And as Dan said, my name is Al Romick. I'm the executive officer here at the Academy. And this is indeed a very special day, which I think your new members will certainly realize when it's done, and all the existing members think back fondly to the days of their own induction. We're extremely proud of our new members. We're also proud of our long-serving members. If you look at the back of the induction book, you'll find the names of individuals who are celebrating a significant membership anniversary. When I read your name, please stand and wave to the audience and then remain standing. I'd like to have the audience hold your applause until all of the honorees are standing, and then we can congratulate them all at once. Celebrating 40 years, Norm Abramson, Dan Berg, and Doug Fornestow. Celebrating 30 years, Morton Den. And celebrating 25 years, Charles Fairhurst, Odd Fultonson, Wayne Skaggs, and Henry Yang. Congratulations. Please be seated. I think as the new members heard from Dan yesterday that National Academy of Engineering members tend to have long lives, so many of you can expect to have such an honor at some point in the future. But as Dan and Gordon both said, this really is a terrific occasion. We're here to celebrate and acknowledge excellence in engineering. We're celebrating the marvelous contributions that the engineers in this year's class have made in research, innovation, manufacturing, education, and the creation of novel technologies, and in designing solutions to real-world problems. I think you know how competitive this process is. Dan alluded to that. From personal experience, prior to assuming this job, I was the chair of the Committee on Membership, and so I know how talented these classes are. As executive officer this year, I had the opportunity to review this year's class, and you are all as distinguished as ever. By the way, if you would like to leave a gratuity in thanks for your election, I'm sure that this year's chair, Don Russell, would be pleased to share it with the Academy. When you come up to the stage, one of the things you'll receive is one of these blue rosettes, which I wore today. All of you last night, the new members, received one of the blue and silver pins that were designed by Patsy and Dan Moat. This rosette is the traditional pin of the Academy. It's been around for some number of decades. But I thought it'd be interesting for you to know briefly the story of this rosette. It's been given to our new members since the 1970s. As Dan cited, our history in the National Academy goes back to 1863, when we were all under the umbrella of the Academy of Sciences, as signed by Lincoln. That organization, which is really intended to serve society and serve the country, really uses the talents of the nation's preeminent scientists, engineers, and physicians. As an identifying emblem needed to be created, this rosette, basic design, was copied from the French. And the story is as follows. The rosette is based on the design of the French Legion of Honor medal that was established to honor military service. It is appropriate to be the model for us, given that the roots of engineering in the U.S. can actually be traced back to the influence of French military engineers in the late 18th century. You might wonder why the French Legion of Honor. It was created by Napoleon in 1802 and used to honor service in the French military. It's interesting that to this day, the U.S. Department of Defense and its predecessors are very important users of the talents of the Academy, so perhaps it is still really appropriate. The rosette has grown over time to be emblematic of membership in any select group, and you certainly are a select group. Now to the official introduction of our new members and foreign members. For all of you who attended this meeting, you know we make great efforts to introduce people by properly pronouncing their names. And I will tell you that between talking to you, listening to voicemail, talking to your assistants or your colleagues, I'm going to try my very best, despite my American accent. There are only two of you who almost got introduced by your phone numbers because I couldn't reach the person who actually knew your name. But in the end, I finally did. What I'm going to do is read the name, the affiliation, and the election citation, first for the new members, and then for the foreign members. You'll each come to the stage, receive your rosette and certificate. and then have a photograph with Dan and with Gordon. When you are finished, the new members will go to Julia Phillips, our home secretary, on the far end of the stage, and you will sign our membership rolls. When we get to the foreign members, then Ruth David, our foreign secretary, will assume that position, and you too will sign the register. When you come up the steps, please make sure your badges are removed, come across in front of me, and you'll have your photo taken with Dan and with Gordon. And when you're done, as I said, sign the register, and if you forget, you'll be lassoed and brought back on stage as your punishment to sign that register. Only those who could attend today will actually be introduced. There were a few, because of weather or whatever, had difficulty in arriving, and we will just, obviously they're members, but we won't read their names since they are not here to actually receive their certificate. So, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause again until we've done the entire class. That never works, but I say it anyway, and we'll see how it goes. So, the National Academy of Engineering class of 2016 first, Kevin R. Andersson, Mercury Senior Fellow, Mercury Marine Division, Brunswick Corporation, for advances in metal recycling through invention of innovative aluminum alloys. Thomas E. Anderson, Warren Francis and Wilma Colin Bradley Endowed Chair in Computer Science and Engineering, University of Washington, for contributions to the design of resilient and efficient distributed computer systems. Janen Bo, Professor, Chemical Engineering, Stanford University, for synthesis, design, and application of organic semiconductors for flexible electronics. Stephen Patel, President, Patel Engineering Incorporated, for engineering, design, and implementation of spaceflight systems. Neal S. Bergano, Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, TE Subcon, for innovation and leadership in undersea optical communications. Charles P. Blankenship Jr., President and CEO, GE Appliances, for contributions to the incorporation of new technology in consumer products and aircraft engines. Dan Bonet, Professor, Computer Science and Electrical Engineering, Stanford University, for contributions to the theory and practice of cryptography and computer security. Antonio J. Busalacchi Jr., President, University Corporation for Atmospheric Research, for understanding of tropical oceans and coupled climate systems via remotely sensed observations and for the international leadership of climate prediction and projection research. Thank you for keeping the hurricane away, Tony. Emily A. Carter, Dean, School of Engineering and Applied Science, Princeton University, for the development of quantum chemistry computational methods for the design of molecules and materials for sustainable energy. Michael A. Celia, Professor, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, Princeton University, for contributions to the development of subsurface flow and transport models in groundwater remediation and CO2 sequestration. Frederick R. Chang, Bobby B. Lyle Centennial Distinguished Chair in Cybersecurity, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Southern Methodist University, for leadership in cybersecurity research in the intelligence community and advancing the importance of cybersecurity science in academia. Simon R. Cherry, Professor, Department of Biomedical Engineering, University of California, Davis, for the development of nuclear emission imaging and magnetic resonance technologies for medical science. Morton Collins, Managing Partner, M. Collins Ventures, for accomplishments as a builder and manager of technology-based companies and as an advisor to government and universities. Thomas M. Conley Jr., Executive Director, American Chemical Society, for leadership of interdisciplinary innovations in chemical engineering, including cellulosic ethanol, polymers, and related materials being used worldwide. Gerard Cornuejols, University Professor, Carnegie Mellon University, for contributions to the theory, practice, and application of integer programming. Juan J. DePablo, Liu Family Professor in Molecular Engineering, Institute for Molecular Engineering, University of Chicago, for design of macromolecular products and processes via scientific computation. Scott L. Delp, James H. Clark Professor, Stanford University, for computer simulations of human movement and their applications to treatment of clinical movement pathologies. Paul E. Dematakis, John K. Northrop Professor of Aeronautics and Applied Physics, Graduate Aerospace Laboratories, California Institute of Technology, for contributions to the fluid mechanics of jet propulsion and other processes involving turbulence, mixing, and transport. Michael F. Dougherty, Professor of Chemical Engineering, University of California, Santa Barbara, for the design of methods for complex distillation and crystallization processes. Fiona M. Doyle, Dean of the Graduate Division, Department of Material Science and Engineering, University of California, Berkeley, for contributions to environmentally benign hydrometallurgy leading to separation of metals from solutions and for leadership in engineering education. Adam J. Ellison, Corporate Fellow, Corning Incorporated, for invention of advanced glasses with widespread use in mobile device displays. Clark W. Gellings, Independent Energy Consultant, Clark W. Gellings, P.E., for leadership in demand-side management and for the application of digital technology to improve efficiency and reliability in electric power systems. Richard A. Gotcho, Executive Vice President, Global Products Group, Lam Research, for solutions of plasma etch technology and productivity challenges in scaling semiconductor devices from the micro to the nanometer levels. Albert G. Greenberg, Distinguished Engineer and Director, Azure Networking, Microsoft Corporation, for contributions to the theory and practice of operating large carrier and data center networks. Mehdi Hatmanian, Fellow Chief Scientist, Central Engineering, Broadcom Limited, for contributions to development of integrated circuits for video, communications, and digital signal processing. William A. Hawkins III, Former Chairman and CEO, Medtronic. Independent Consultant, Immunocore, Inc. For leadership in biomedical engineering and translational medicine. M. Cynthia Hipwell, Vice President of Engineering, Bueller, Inc. For leadership in the development of technologies to enable areal density increases in hard drive disks. Tae Si Ho, retired ExxonMobil Research and Engineering Company, for contributions to catalytic removal of sulfur and nitrogen compounds from hydrocarbon fuels. James E. Hubbard, Jr., Langley Distinguished Professor, University of Maryland, for advances in the modeling, design, analyses, and application of adaptive structures. Anil K. Jain, University Distinguished Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Michigan State University, for contributions to the engineering and practice of biometrics. Basil L. Jaffe, Senior Consultant, Spiral Software Limited, for leadership in optimization-based production planning systems for the petroleum and petrochemical industry. Kristina M. Johnson, Chief Executive Officer, Cube Hydro Partners, for development and deployment of liquid crystal on silicon display technologies, the basis for high-speed optoelectronic 3D imaging. Brian D. Kelly, Vice President, Bioprocess Development, Genentech, for leadership in the development of bioprocess technology and cost-effective manufacturing processes for clinically effective recombinant protein therapeutics. Peter S. Kim, Virginia and D.K. Ludwig Professor of Biochemistry, Stanford, Chem-H, Stanford University, for leadership in the discovery and development of novel drugs and vaccines used worldwide. Gary J. Klein, Executive Vice President and Senior Principal, WIS Janney Elsner Associates Incorporated, for investigations of national and international infrastructure and conveying knowledge from these investigations to the profession. John J. Kosnick, Chief Technical Officer, Acadis Power, Inc., for improvements in the design, development, and production efficiency of vehicle engines. Philip T. Krein, Granger Endowment Emeritus Chair in Electric Machinery and Electromechanics, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, for contributions to power electronics technology and education. Charles E. Liserson, Edwin Silby Webster Professor, Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, for theoretically grounded approaches to digital design and parallel computer systems. Bruce G. Lindsay, Retired Fellow, IBM Almaden Research Center, for the design and implementation of high-performance distributed and extensible database systems. Yilu Liu, Governor's Chair Professor, Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department, University of Tennessee and Oak Ridge National Laboratory, for innovations in electric power grid monitoring, situational awareness, and dynamic modeling. Jon D. Magnuson, Senior Principal, Magnuson Klemensic Associates, for building designs that enable high-rise buildings in seismic-sensitive regions and for innovations in modern structural engineering practice worldwide. David R. Maidment, Hussein M. Alarti Centennial Chair in Civil Engineering, Center for Research in Water Resources, University of Texas, for the development of geographic information systems applied to hydrologic processes. Michael Maloney, Manager, Structural Alloys, Hot Section Materials and Coatings, Pratt & Whitney, for contributions to the development and implementation of low-conductivity thermal barrier coatings for advanced aircraft engines. Charles W. Moorman, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Norfolk Southern Corporation, for leadership in the development of computerized freight railroad tracking system in North America. Warren C. Oliver, President, Nanomechanics, Inc., for contributions to the development and commercialization of nanomechanical testing technology. Shmuel S. Oren, the Earl J. Isaac Chair Professor, Department of Industrial Engineering and Operation Research, University of California, Berkeley, for contributions to the integration of decisions and cooperative market mechanisms for adaptive multi-source electrical power systems. Arati Prabhakar, Director, U.S. Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, for national leadership to advance semiconductor information technologies. David Y. Poi, Distinguished McKnight University Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, for contributions to aerosol and nanoparticle science and engineering for air pollution control. James B. Rawlings, Professor, Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering, University of Wisconsin, Madison, for contributions to control engineering theory, practice, and education. Gabriel M. Rebez, Distinguished Professor, University of California, San Diego, for contributions to radio frequency microelectromechanical systems, RF MEMS, and phased array technologies. Wanda K. Reeder, Chief Strategy Officer, S&C Electric Company, for leadership in electric power delivery and workforce development. Rodolfo R. Rodriguez, Chief Scientific Officer and Founder, Advanced Animal Diagnostics, for inventions to analyze blood and separate blood components that enable widespread clinical therapies. Emmanuel M. Sachs, Chairman, Scientific Advisory Board, 1366 Technologies Incorporated, for contributions in commercialization in photovoltaics and three-dimensional printing. It's written in blue. Ann Salamone, President, Roshai Industries, LLC, for development of materials for biomedical applications, personal care, electronics, and water purification. Jose G. Santaesteban, Manager, Catalyst Technology Division, Exxon Research and Engineering Company, for development and commercialization of catalytic systems for petrochemical manufacture and cleaner fuels production. Bridget R. Scanlon, Senior Research Scientist, Bureau of Economic Geology, Jackson School of Geosciences, the University of Texas at Austin, for contributions to the evaluation of groundwater recharge and aquifer depletion. David L. Sedlak, Plato Molozanoff, Professor, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, University of California, Berkeley, for contributions to environmental aqueous chemistry, especially in the areas of water reuse, water contaminants, and urban water infrastructure. Mohammed Shahidapur, Bodine Chair Professor and Director, Robert W. Galvin Center for Electricity Innovation, Illinois Institute of Technology, for contributions to the optimal scheduling of generation in a deregulated electricity market with variable renewable energy sources. Michael K. Sinnott, Vice President, Product Development, Boeing Commercial Airplane, for leadership in commercial aircraft and aircraft systems development, creating improvements in performance and cost. K.R. Sridhar, Chief Executive Officer, Bloom Energy, for contributions to transport phenomena and thermal packaging of electrochemical systems and the generation of clean, reliable, and affordable power. Robert L. Steigerwald, Power Electronics Consulting Engineer, Adirondack Power Processing, LLC, for development and deployment of power electronics for medical, transportation, and industrial applications. Adam D. Seltzner, Engineering Fellow, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, for the development of the Mars Curiosity 2011 entry, descent, and landing system, and for contributions to control of parachute dynamics. Grant H. Stokes, Division Head, Space Systems and Technology Division, MIT Lincoln Laboratory, for innovations in systems for space situational awareness and the discovery of near-Earth asteroids. Kathryn D. Sullivan, Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere and NOAA Administrator, U.S. Department of Commerce, for service to the nation through flight in space and leadership of federal oceanography and meteorology. Yongkui Sun, Executive Director, Business Development and Licensing, Merck & Company, Incorporated, for contributions to green, economical processes for pharmaceuticals and for developing business strategies in emerging markets. Kenneth R. Swartzel, William Neal Reynolds Distinguished University Professor, North Carolina State University, for advances in thermal processes of food preservation. Ganesh C. Thakur, Director of Energy Industrial Partnerships and the Distinguished Professor of Petroleum Engineering, University of Houston, for leadership in the implementation of integrated reservoir management technologies. L. Kent Thomas, Consultant Reservoir Engineering Fellow, Upstream Technology, for contributions to the development and application of reservoir simulators to enhance production from complex reservoirs. Michael F. Thompson, for the design and development of the first charge-coupled device imagers. Jon R. Treichler, Chief Technical Officer, Raytheon Applied Signal Technology, for contributions to digital signal processing and its application to national intelligence gathering. Stephen M. Trimberger, Fellow Xilinx Incorporated, for contributions to architectures and programming tools for field programmable gate arrays. Chris G. Vandeval, Professor of Materials and Herbert Cromer Chair in Materials Science, Materials Department, University of California, Santa Barbara, for contributions to the theory of semiconductor interfaces and its impact on optoelectronic devices. David A. Waits, Professor of Physics and Applied Physics, Department of Physics and Seas, Harvard University, for discoveries of complex fluids, colloids, and emulsions which have resulted in new products and companies. David F. Welsh, President, Infinera, for contributions to high-power semiconductor lasers and photonic integrated circuits. Jennifer L. West, Fitzpatrick Family University Professor, Department of Biomedical Engineering, Duke University, for developments in photothermal and therapeutic therapies and bioabsorbed scaffolds for tissue regeneration. Alan E. Wilner, Stephen and Karen Sample Chair in Engineering, Department of Electrical Engineering, University of Southern California, for significant advances in high-capacity optical communication systems. Michael I. Yaramovich, Independent Consultant, for contributions to space programs and for leadership of national and international aerospace organizations. So Ruth, if you could relieve Julie at the signature station. We'll now have the induction for the 2016 foreign members. Göran Andersson, Professor, ETH Zurich, for contributions to the development of high-voltage direct current technology and methods of power systems voltage stability analysis. Jon B. Berland, Emeritus Professor and Senior Research Investigator, Imperial College London, for contributions to geotechnical engineering and the design, construction, and preservation of civil infrastructure and heritage buildings. Emmanuel Detournay, Professor, Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geoengineering, University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, for advances in hydraulic fracturing and drilling dynamics. Masao Doi, Professor, Beihang University, for contributions to the rheology of polymeric liquids, especially the entanglement effects in concentrated solutions and melts. Peter Gomsch, Ordinarius, Institute of Applied Materials, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, for multi-scale modeling techniques that improve fracture and deformation behavior of structural materials. Keith W. Heipel, University Professor, Department of Systems Design Engineering, University of Waterloo, for development and application of conflict resolution techniques from a systems engineering perspective. Lei Zhang, Professor, Technical Institute of Physics and Chemistry, Chinese Academy of Sciences, for development and commercialization of superphilic and superphobic coatings. Willi A. Callender, full professor and chairman, Institute of Medical Physics, University of Erlangen-Nuremberg, for development of spiral computed tomography methods that enable modern high-speed 3D medical imaging with X-rays. Bruno Michel, manager, Advanced Microintegration, IBM Research, Zurich, for sustainable technologies to improve data centers and improved efficiency of energy conversion systems. Sam G. Petrodra, chairman, Petrodra Group, for development of rural telecommunications infrastructure for India. Marie L. Reyes, full professor, University of Minho, for contributions to biomaterials and tissue engineering in regenerative medicine. R. K. Rowe, professor and Canada Research Chair, Department of Civil Engineering, Queen's University, for advances in knowledge of the performance of waste containment facilities. Molly Shoykit, University Professor, University of Toronto, for contributions to neural tissue engineering and design of polymers for cell and drug delivery. Julia Slingo, Chief Scientist, Met Office, for contributions to modeling of the Earth's climate system and for leadership in the weather and climate community. Peter Stoika, Professor, Information Technology Department, Uppsala University, for contributions to array signal processing in communications, sensing, and imaging. Kirsi K. Tika, Executive Vice President, Global Marine, American Bureau of Shipping, for contributions leading to internationally recognized standards for ship structural design, construction, and maritime safety. Yuzor S. Zhuang, Chairman, Shenhu Group Corporation Limited, for development and commercialization of coal to chemical fuels and for leadership in environmental responsibility for the coal industry. Your member and foreign member classes of 2016.